All right, today we are diving into a really fascinating and frankly provocative vision for social welfare. This comes from the Korean philosopher Jungbub, and it completely flips the script on conventional charity, proposing a very structured, top-down model for how society should work. So let's get right into it. Everything we're about to talk about today really hinges on this one single powerful idea. According to this philosophy, the chairman of a major corporation, what's known as a chaebol in Korea, isn't just some CEO. Nope. Once their company hits a certain level of maturity, their entire role changes into something much, much bigger. They become the father of the nation. So how on earth does a corporation become a national parent? Well, the argument goes like this. These huge companies didn't just pop up out of nowhere. They were built using the energy, the labor, and even the sacrifices of the people, and they had the full backing of the nation to get where they are. And look, this isn't just some honorary title. It's framed as a deep, profound societal duty. Think of it like this. For a long time, the company was growing, receiving help from the nation. Now it's mature, so the leader's job shifts from just growing the business to actually guiding the nation. It's a huge transition from receiving to giving back, but in a very, very specific way. Okay, so let's get into the problem that this whole new paradigm is trying to fix. The source argues that our current way of thinking about social contribution is, well, it's totally lost. And interestingly, the story begins with the spouses of these powerful chairmen, the ones who are called the mothers of the nation. So in their role as the nation's symbolic mothers, these women felt the struggles of the people really deeply. You know, like a mother feels her own child's pain. They were genuinely motivated to do something, to act, to try and ease the suffering they were seeing everywhere. But the big question was, how? What's the right way to help? So they went looking for guidance from society's spiritual heavyweights, monks, priests, pastors. And the advice they got was pretty much what you'd expect. Be kind, donate money, help the poor, traditional charity. And they did it. They went out to welfare facilities, they offered support. But after a while, they started to realize something just wasn't right. It felt like they were just putting a Band-Aid on a much deeper wound. It wasn't actually fixing the underlying problems. So, feeling like they'd hit a dead end, they pulled back, totally lost and unsure of what their role was supposed to be. And this is exactly where the new paradigm kicks in. If traditional charity is broken, what's the alternative? Well, the answer proposed here is a completely different system for welfare, one that's based on these really clearly defined roles inside of a national household. At the heart of this whole idea is this powerful metaphor. The nation is just one big family. The father, that's the chairman, his job is the outside work. His sole focus is growing the economy. Meanwhile, the mother, his wife, is in charge of the inside work. Her job is to manage the nation's social problems and find real solutions for people suffering. Now, you can see how different this is from the old model, the one the mothers gave up on. The source calls it welfare by visiting with bread. It's a reactive approach. You see someone who's hungry, you give them bread, but you never stop to ask why they're hungry to begin with. It's temporary relief, not a permanent fix. The new model, on the other hand, is all about finding a fundamental solution. Instead of just handing out bread, the new question becomes, what are the root causes of this hunger? And that right there is the big shift, moving away from simple charity toward deep systemic research. Okay, so if it's all about research, how does that actually happen? The engine that drives this whole new paradigm is a very special kind of institution, the Researching Welfare Foundation. So here's the blueprint. These foundations would be started and led by the mothers of the nation, beginning with a small, focused group of leaders. And their mission is crystal clear. This is not about handing out aid. It is about conducting serious, rigorous research into the root causes of society's problems. And to do that, they would hire the smartest people in the country, the top intellectuals and experts, to find real, lasting solutions. And here's how the whole system is supposed to work, like a well-oiled machine. First, the fathers do their job. They grow the economy and generate massive profits. Then, a chunk of that capital gets invested directly into these welfare foundations run by the mothers. The foundations then use that money to fund all their research. And finally, they come back with data-driven, fundamental solutions to the nation's problems. You see? It's a perfect closed loop where economic success directly pays for solving social issues. So, what's the end game here? What is the ultimate goal of this super-structured top-down system? Well, it's all about creating a society where leaders are genuinely respected because they are actually effectively doing their jobs. The source has a name for the harmony that comes from this: true internal support. It's this idea that when the father is successfully handling the economy and the mother is successfully handling social welfare, the whole nation just finds this natural balance and order. Every part is doing what it's supposed to, creating a healthy society. And this part is absolutely crucial. In this system, respect isn't something you demand or just expect to get. It's earned. When people see that their leaders are making the economy boom and solving those deep, nagging social problems, they will naturally look up to them with real admiration. Respect just becomes the organic result of a system that actually works. This really brings us to the core philosophy of how change is supposed to happen. And the source is unambiguous about this. Real, meaningful change has to start from the top. Welfare is the job of the nation's elders, the corporate and social leaders. Those bottom-up grassroots movements, they're seen as inefficient, disorderly, and ultimately unable to solve the big problems. Instead, the role of the people is to unify and get behind the leaders who are steering the ship. This creates an orderly society where everyone knows their place and what their purpose is. And all of this leaves us with a pretty provocative final question, doesn't it? This whole paradigm presents a very clear choice. Does true social welfare come from the spontaneous, decentralized kindness of sharing, or does it require a deliberate top-down structure that creates order, where everyone plays a specific, predefined role for the greater good? It's a question that really challenges the very foundation of how we think about building a better world.